Ignoring the Noise, Focusing on Business. Hello, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Dana Szabados. I am a Romanian translator. I work in the English into Romanian and French into Romanian pairs. My fields are marketing, corporate governance, sustainability, technical, environment, fashion, and cosmetics. Dear colleagues, welcome to my tranquil presentation about avoiding the noise. This presentation is a series of notes gathered in time based on my observation on the theme of noise in the last 1 year and a half. Most of them conclude with questions that can be used periodically to assess our approach towards noise. There were several waves of different kinds of psychological noise that I had to deal with, generated by a variety of sources. Discussions with friends led to the conclusion that all of us have to face noise, and our approaches are somehow different, and so are our perceptions on what noise is. Many of us understood the hard way we were victims of noise that prevented us from focusing on the actual business, therefore drawing us back, becoming a setback. While a setback is a negative factor, it can have a positive effect by teaching us things that we neither learned in school nor from others, and by having first-hand experience. I wonder if you can really see me.
Yes, we can. We can see both you and the slide.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. So, the definition of noise. Noise is everywhere. We are surrounded by noise. While I'm sitting here in my office with my headset on, I can hear the renovation noise in the flats around. This noise coming from the environment is a physical noise, the sound. Sound intensity is measured in decibels. It has been hot in Romania recently. Temperatures reach almost 40 degrees Celsius, and without air conditioning, work would have been unbearable in my office. The discomfort of extreme working conditions is an example of physiological noise. Nowadays, there are lots of online and offline discussions on the pros and cons of vaccination. While some are based on science, many are based on personal perception and understanding. Such sensitive issues are examples of psychological noise. The people who had a trauma, a loss of a dear one, or of a loss of income, for example, struggle with emotional noise. Sean Aker, an American author and speaker, in his book Before Happiness, distinguishes between noise and signals, stating that a signal is information that is true and reliable. So, it has been hot in Romania recently. Temperatures reached almost 40 degrees Celsius. Without air conditioning, work would have been unbearable in my office. And the discomfort of extreme working conditions is an example of physiological noise. Nowadays, there are lots of online and offline discussions on the pros and cons of vaccination. While some are based on science, many are based on personal perception and understanding. The people who had a trauma, a loss of a dear one like me now, or a loss of income, for example, struggle with emotional noise. Sean Aker, an American author and speaker, in his book Before Happiness, distinguishes between noise and signals, stating that a signal is an information that is true and reliable and alerts you to the opportunities, possibilities, and resources to reach full potential. While noise is any information that is negative, false, unnecessary, or prevents you from perceiving success. He developed a 4-category system to identify noise. Based on his approach, noise means information that is unusable, information that will not change your behavior, untimely, information that you do not plan to use immediately and may change by the time you use it, hypothetical information that could be as opposed to what is, and distracting information that distracts you from your career or personal goals. Communication channels and noise. Our lives have two sides, a personal life and the business one. The balance between these two is given by how we use the communication channels and how we are able to identify and cancel the noise. The main business communication channels are emails, video conferences, social media, online communication platforms, phone calls, face-to-face communication. The question is, what amount of the communication flowing through these channels is important and meaningful, and what amount is noise? In order to be able to properly focus on work and to minimize the noise, we need a shut-off valve for opening, closing, or adjusting the communication channels, and a filter for the information in this communication. The useful information is a signal, the useless one is a noise. The shut-off valve and the wish to please. We only have a limited amount of time and we have to share it wisely between the two sides of our lives. We cannot please everyone in our business lives and we do not have to do so. No is a word in all the languages and it can be expressed in a variety of semantic constructions. Sometimes we do not say no because we do not want to disappoint others. We want to be more competitive than others, or we cannot properly assess our limits. Not saying no when we should say it means surrender to the noise, allowing others to set our priorities. Here are two examples on how I reacted in different situations. The first one, an acquaintance calls me hours before I am leaving on vacation. She needs some notarized translations that could require a couple of days to translate. Not only that I do not translate notarized translations, but I also have other personal plans. I tell her politely about my departure and I recommend someone who can do it. She is upset and removes me from her Facebook friends. My shut-off valve in the closed position triggered the filter. The second one, an acquaintance sends me a text message. She has my contact details from my accountant. She needs a short document translated. She sends it via phone. I'm busy and not willing to change my schedule. And she insists I want to get rid of the back and forth communication and I accept to translate it. Several lines that took me half an hour to translate as I had to do some research, then do the layout, print, sign, and deliver it to a person nearby. My shut-off valve in the open position flooded my schedule. My examples are related on how the perception of the public regarding translation influences their requests from translators. Creating awareness on the profession and on how translators' work is critical for our avoiding the noise. How often do you say no in order to protect yourself against noise? Is busyness good for the business? We are multitasking, we are business. How often do we hear this statement? How proud those who say it are of their busyness. We have a schedule for the next days, weeks, or even months. Our time is booked. In principle, because we constantly receive emails that require our attention, browse the internet, check the social media, read the news, communicate on various channels. Some of these are part of our work, but many are not. They are simply noise that reduces our productivity and focus, influencing the output of our business. We react differently to noise. Some of us need a break every now and then. Some of us can work continuously for a longer time. Being busy does not necessarily mean being productive. At the end of the day, the amount of progress in our work proves what our busyness led to. Being busy also means we are in demand. The more in demand we are, the more we have to sort out what is signal and what is noise. Earlier this year, I reorganized my business. I was too busy with jobs and clients that I was not resonating with any longer. That prevented me from accepting new clients or from working more on topics I am interested in. I decided to increase my rates for 3 of them. One could not accommodate the rate. One accepted the new rate and sent me more work. One accepted the rate, stopped sending me work, and posted the project I was involved in on a translator's portal, then wanting to return to me. All these reactions helped me understand my decision was right and that I identified correctly the noise. Busyness goes hand in hand with allowing different sources of noise impact our workflow or our personal life. How do you deal with busyness? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you very well.
Urgent for whom? We're used to receive urgent marked emails. What does urgent mean in this context? How is the urgency degree measured? Last week, my offer for a Black Friday related translation was declined as I quoted 1 day more than the proposed deadline. It was in July and it was urgent. How is urgency defined? In order to transpose the urgency in our terms and to balance it with our schedule, we can use a ranking or a checklist while communicating with the other party and considering our priorities and theirs. In my experience, urgencies are unplanned but genuine, that should be dealt with immediately, planned, that should be dealt with immediately based on prior arrangements, negotiable, or not urgent at all. Urgency is not always mirrored, and it usually has disruptive effects on our schedule, therefore can be considered a noise. Does urgent mean the priorities are not truly important or correctly set? Is something urgent more important or less important than the non-urgent things? Which urgencies do you encounter in your daily work? The Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. This principle, developed by the Romanian-born management consultant Joseph M. Juran, a principle named after the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, states that 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. In other words, 80% of the causes are potentially noise generating. Therefore, they do not add much to our output. What we have to focus on is the remaining 20%, the ones that make the difference. 20% of the clients in our portfolio contribute 80% of the revenue. 20% of our specializations contribute 80% of the work volume. The numbers do not have to be exactly 80-20. They are roughly around these values, and the total should not be exactly 100. The meaning of the Pareto principle is that most things are not distributed evenly. Each unit of cost does not contribute the same amount to the consequences. Focusing on the important 20% does not mean neglecting the remaining 80% causes, but optimizing, delegating, or even letting them go. What are the 20% of your work that drive 80% of your output? Does noise change, or do we change? What was yesterday's noise can become today's signal, and the other way around. Based on the circumstances, the way we perceive noise can change. Our perspectives change, and our perception is dynamic. We control the amount of noise in our lives, and we are able to reduce the noise in order to listen to the signal. Noise and signal are subjective, and so are our answers or reactions to them. Some of us are reluctant to change what we define as signal and noise, Some embrace change willingly, realizing our perception and the environment changed. Therefore, in order to remain relevant, their definition of noise should be adjusted to match the current situation. When did you last change your definition of noise and signal? And what were the factors that triggered this change? What is the right level of noise? The right level of noise is not zero. Canceling the noise can be either undesirable or too expensive. Filtering the noise so we can only listen to the signals is easier to attain, adds value and contributes to our success. This makes communication more robust and the receiver more prepared to react. We should not underestimate the power of noise. It's up to us to define the signal to noise ratio, the measure that compares the level of desired signal and the level of background noise for ourselves at a certain moment, and to adjust them according to our strategy. What to donate, money or time? Time is a limited resource. We only have 24 hours in a day, and we have to divide time wisely. We sell our time and knowledge for money. Some of the people around us want to grab our time, making us use it according to their wishes. Once you give them a finger, they'll take the whole hand, forgetting or ignoring our time belongs to us. And this is noise. Think about the self-declared victims, those who think the universe owes something to them and complain about their misfortune to everyone. They want others to be aware of their plan and suffer together with them. Their manipulative communication is signal for them without taking it into account. It can be noise for many in the audience. The biggest gift we can do to ourselves and to our nearest and dearest is spending time with them. And the time spent amidst meaningless noise is time stolen from them. Sometimes it is difficult for the noise generated to understand their communication is noise. And this is where the shut-off valve should be mounted. There is a small number of causes I donate my time to. These are causes I believe in, that I want to support, not somebody else's choices or beliefs. I extensively help others, and I'm aware the limit between signal and noise in this respect is extremely fine. I found it from my own and from others' experience. Cultivating meaningful and healthy relationships or socializing with everyone. Not all relationships are equal. Socializing with everyone, aside from devouring our time, brings loads of noise. Whether we are introverts or extroverts, we should carefully select the people we want to spend our time with, as they can influence our well-being and output. Work with colleagues you like and respect. Do you feel inspired, supported, appreciated, and confident when interacting with the people in your circle? Or frustrated, overwhelmed, depressed, and exhausted? The former means what you hear is signal. The latter means you hear noise. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is what motivational speaker John Rohn said. His statement is related to the law of average, the theory that the result of any given situation is the average of all outcomes. In short, the law of average says that the salesperson has to make an average 30 cold calls to make a sale. Every 10 cold calls would bring them 1 invitation for a presentation. And for the 3 invitations, they would get 1 sale. The African big five below, the elephant, rhinoceros, buffalo, lion, leopard, are the most sought for animals in a safari. I saw 4 of them in Tanzania. The leopard was not visible, but it definitely was there, hidden, observing. The 5 people we spend the most time with, the big 5 in our lives. 5 people, 5 relationships who define our self-esteem, personalities, and decisions. 5 people who provide feedback, be it positive or negative, and help us grow. These 5 people are the ones who provide signal, meaningful input for us. What if we paraphrase Jim Rohn's words and say, your business is the average of the 5 clients you do more work with. Who are these clients? And why are they the 5 clients you do more work with? Is feedback noise? Feedback is the ratio of how we actually perform to the other party's expectations. Therefore, feedback is subjective. If the expectations were clearly stated and both parties are aware of them, and the assessment of our performance is honest, then feedback is signal and it describes you. If the expectations were vague and or the assessment of our performance is not impartial, feedback is noise and it describes the feedback provider. In both cases, feedback should be considered for further improvement of our own work and business model or the improvement of the way we interact with others. Seth Godin said that feedback is a gift. Why should we waste a gift and not make good use of it or even monetize it? Are signal and noise identical for all of us? Look around, see how people react to the same situations and stimuli. While some take risks, some are reluctant to make any step forward from their comfort zone. While some complain about the pressure on prices in their segment, some are not afraid to position themselves in a different side or level of the market. Some only travel in groups or go to all-inclusive resorts, and others choose more adventurous trips, enjoying their experience and freedom of traveling by themselves or in small groups. Signal and noise are defined at the individual level by our own judgments of things. The definition of signal and noise is an intrinsic value set by each of us. Sometimes we are able to understand how others define these values, but this is not necessarily mutual. We cannot expect others to understand how we define noise and signal. Do you talk to yourself? All of us use intrapersonal communication or self-speak, meaning we are simultaneously the sender and the receiver of the message, either by speaking loud or silent or setting mementos in a variety of ways. Think about taking decision on your own. How would you do it? Based on situational awareness and using intrapersonal communication, you are ready to take a decision in the time frame you set. We use intrapersonal communication to raise our own situational awareness or to focus on accomplishing our goals. Whenever our mind begins to wander about, we deal with internal noise that can create a communication barrier with ourselves or during interpersonal communication. We can either turn a deaf ear to the internal noise or address the cause of this noise depending on our priorities. The more we notice what is occupying our mental space, the faster we can return back on track to our meaningful activities. What I meant by this presentation, noisy presentation, unfortunately, is that noise is everywhere and it's up to us to identify the right level of noise we can handle and that is suitable for ourselves. The definition of noise and signal are different at individual level, and our perception towards noise and signal is dynamic. It is not set in stone. Thank you for your time and for your attention. I hope you could find some signal in my noisy presentation that will help you deal with the noise in your life.
Thank you very much, Dana. It was definitely...
I'm somewhere.
It was tough.
I'm somewhere.
Yeah, you're still with us. It was not easy, but you handled it. Yeah. So thanks again. I think there was lots of food for thought in this presentation, right? I think we can afford one question at most. Are there any questions right now? Because unfortunately we're out of time, but yeah, just one question, please.
I'd like to thank you for the brilliant presentation. And one tiny question. Could you please name the book you mentioned in the first part of your presentation? The book about noise and signal and different types of noise.
Before Happiness.
And the author?
That is the name of the book, yes. And the author is Sean Aker.
Sean Aker. Thank you very much.
No. You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much again. And
thank you. And sorry for all the technical
well,
noise.
That happens. Noise is part of our lives, right? So thanks again and all the best.
Thank you. Likewise.
Спикеру.
Thank you.
Thank you.